It all starts when the main character Yuji Itsuki is running to meet Kanatsuki Maharu, the daughter of the relatives Itsuki is staying with. When they meet on the roof, after catching his breath, she tells him she's pregnant. He's worried and surprised by the news, but before she can tell him who the father is, a green light appears in the sky enveloping them and then disappears. Suddenly, they find themselves in a strange room with some ruins, and Itsuki is concerned about Maharu's pregnancy, so he suggests finding a way out. But before they can move, she confesses that the father doesn't exist. She's still a virgin. She explains to Itsuki that she felt strange a week ago and took several pregnancy tests, all of which were positive. He suggests they go to the doctor after leaving. However, as they're about to move, she's overcome by intense stomach pain. Itsuki thinks it's nausea, but then waves of force emanated from Maharu's body, throwing him against a wall and leaving a light mark on her cheek. Immediately, a purple aura starts emanating from her room, and her mouth emerges a sphere-shaped entity that transforms into a demon, attacking Yuji. When it has him cornered, the same mark that's on Maharu's cheek appears on the Yuji's right hand. When the demon launches itself at them and splits in two, they notice a breach opening in the wall. Passing through it, they find themselves in a forest, thinking they're in a nightmare. Maharu says she feels better now, but then a bear-like creature with a raccoon tail climbs onto her. Startled, she throws it off, but it returns and welcomes them to the land of magic, Grabania. This creature is called Mana, and after recognizing that Mihiro is a virgin, it speaks to Narcissus, a scholar of the court of the kingdom of Grabania, who guides them to the castle to meet the ruler of the realm. They explain that in their world, they call the earth the world of Sola, and that Vania exists in a different dimension, a parallel dimension. Upon reaching the kingdom, they are presented to Shangri-La Vania. He explains that they are the chosen visitors from the sky with marks of the constellations, arriving every 10 years to their world with great power, which they must use to save this world. He states that until they do so, they cannot return. Mihiro starts feeling unwell, and the king orders her to the doctor's office, where she rests due to exhaustion, while Mana tells Itsuki that he also needs rest, taking him to a room and promising to cook for him later, assuring him that she'll take care of him. That night, we see a kind of priestess mentioning that since the honorable visitor has arrived, now she must fulfill her duty. The next morning, Itsuki wakes up chained to the bed, facing Rion, the court doctor, who is evaluating his physical condition. Rion shows him that his body bears the emblems of the 12 constellations, proving that he is a visitor, and asks if he is willing to fulfill the mission. He agrees, saying it's the only way for him and Mihiro to return home. Rion explains that the mission is to enter a labyrinth and silence the impurities, monsters ruled by the Lord of Impurities, located on the lower level of the labyrinth. Once that mission is completed, the door of light will reopen, allowing them to return to their world. Unfortunately, nobody can destroy that being, so they must contain the monsters within the labyrinth. To do that, they must regain the power of the Star Guards who lost their power and offer a new one. They are told that they have no power, but Rion, along with Mana, explains that they do have power as visitors and will be assisted by 12 priestesses who have the ability to cleanse impurities and use their power to create a Star Guard according to their constellation. A bit confused by all this, they are told they need to accept it. Additionally, they are told that Mihiro is one of these priestesses, the Priestess of Virgo. Then, Maharu appears, and they explain that the monster they expelled was the impurity within her, and that the symptoms of pregnancy were due to that. Mana explains that the priestesses alone cannot do anything against the impurities, so they must perform a ritual of love, which involves bearing the children of the stars. These children will be able to cleanse the impurities with the help of the visitors, making it crucial to save the world. Itsuki is very pleased with this. He can't stand it anymore and decides it's better to just start. As they begin the ritual, despite being nervous, Itsuki respects Maharu's feelings, so she agrees to do the ritual just to be able to return home. Just as they are about to do it, Maharu suddenly stops, surprising Itsuki as they haven't finished yet. Then, Rion appears and explains that to conceive a star child, they just need to create bonds with the priestesses through physical contact to ignite emotions. It wasn't necessary to go as far as they were about to. Afterwards, we see Itsuki and Maharu as well as Mana, who just comes to bother them. When they ask about their child, Mana says she took him to a foster home so they can train until they can fight against the impurities. But before they see him, they have other things to do. Next, we see Itsuki, Meharu, and Mana walking through the kingdom when a girl running because she's late crashes into Itsuki, who apologizes before rushing off. Arriving where Rion is, he says he'll introduce them to all the priestesses. After introducing Itsuki, he presents the priestesses: Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Libra, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, and Scorpio. Mana reminds him that he must create a bond with all of them and gives him a manual as a guide. At the end of the day, we see Mana and the girl from before Ruka conversing, realizing that it was Mana who planned for Ruka and Itsuki to bump into each other. Mana believes it's destiny and that this way they can produce stronger star children. The next day, Itsuki is walking with Maharu when he asks if she has created another star child yet, to which she says no. Imana plans a picnic with all the priestesses, Narcissus, and Itsuki. While everyone eats and has fun, Rion notices that Ruka is missing, so Itsuki goes to find her. He finds her in a flower garden, where she reveals that she wants to take some flowers to the orphanage where she works. She also confesses that she's a psychic and can read minds, offering to read his mind. She finds something dirty, but they both decide to try the love ritual. However, she fails because he's not from Gravania. He comforts her, saying he knows they're nervous, but he'll always be honest with his feelings. She accepts this and leaves. Then, Maharu arrives and starts to talk to him, thanking him for saving her from some kids when they were younger, and asking if he remembers the promise they made 10 years ago. Seeing he doesn't remember, she pretends it's unimportant and sends him back to the picnic to get along with all the priestesses, leaving her sad and pensive. On their way to join the others, Mana meets Itsuki and sees he still hasn't created another child, so he takes him to see the weapons they must use in the labyrinth. And then, they go to see how Virgo is training. At the foster home, he sees Virgo training hard with Alfie, who will be responsible for training their children. Itsuki keeps looking at her, but Mana reminds him that he can only focus on the priestesses, and Alfie asks him to create more star children so they can train them for the fight. Leaving there, Itsuki starts talking about Ruka, and when they arrive at the orphanage, he sees her helping a child. As evening falls and they return to the orphanage, he asks Ruka to create another star child because he feels Virgo is lonely. Seeing that he's not lying, she accepts, and at midnight, her next child is born. The next day, we see the king of Shangri-La handing Itsuki the 12 star guards, which they must offer in the lower level of the labyrinth to seal and complete their task. Narcissus guides Itsuki to the entrance of the labyrinth, where the priestesses start to open the entrance. But inside the labyrinth, Itsuki is with his 2 children and Mala, who explains that the labyrinth has 12 levels, 1 for each constellation. Suddenly, the first impurity appears, and they manage to defeat it, destroying their children. Itsuki, along with Mana, must flee. This demonstrates to Itsuki that he must have more and stronger children. When they leave the labyrinth, the star children, who had turned into sacred Matryoshka dolls, return to their true form, explaining that this is how they protect themselves when in danger and heal their wounds. They try again, but they are instantly defeated once more. So, they go to Narcissus, who explains that it's because all the priestesses are new, and to succeed, they must perform a double love ritual. Itsuki agrees to consider it later. Afterwards, while heading to the hot springs, Mana suggests relaxing, almost mentioning the new ritual but stops, leaving her in doubt. On the way, Mahiro trips over Itsuki, who acts gallantly, picking up her bag and noticing a keychain similar to his, making Mahiro nervous. When they enter the hot springs, Mahiro notices the scars on Itsuki from training and urges him to keep going, apologizing for doubting him and explaining what happened during the love ritual. She gets flustered from the heat and faints. When she wakes up, Itsuki has carried her out, but her keychain is left in the hot springs. Mahiro despairs, trying to get it back, and he tells her he'll find it. He reminds her of their promise to always be together, and just as they are about to kiss, Mana appears, telling them they must board the transparent carriage to perform the ritual and endure until then. Mahiro confronts her, but Itsuki admits he made a mistake. The carriage shouldn't be transparent. This angers Mihiro, and she walks away, unable to bear it anymore. With Mana's help, Itsuki goes to the infirmary to heal his wounds. There, he starts feeling a cold, and Mana tells him about doing the double love ritual. To see how Itsuki's body would react, Rion offers to do it with another maiden, but first feeds him apples. However, when Itsuki asked Rion, he remembered his deceased brother. Then they arrive at the bar where Follow works and see her dancing and entertaining everyone who's drinking. Afterward, they go in and have a drink with her. He tells her about the love ritual, and she reluctantly agrees. She explains that she doesn't like staying in one place for long, but because of everything that has happened, she must stay until the mission is completed. He understands, apologizes, and convinces her to do the double love ritual. We see Itsuki with the two maidens desiring him. He almost can't handle it, but Mana appears to tell him it's not the time to get depressed, and he must continue. He does so, and with the two maidens, they manage to conceive Capreco. The next day, Itsuki re-enters the labyrinth, this time with all 4 star children, and in the end, they defeat the boss of that level, allowing him to offer the Star Guard. Upon leaving the labyrinth, he sees that everyone is okay, but suddenly, a rumble echoes throughout Grabania. Now we see Mana telling spicy stories until Itsuki calls him out, and tells him how long is he going to keep this up. He starts teasing him, and Itsuki runs off, hiding in a sanctuary where Eri is. She's glad to see him, but is interrupted by several children. He tells her he'll come back later. Then we see Itsuki trying to buy something to eat for him in Maharu, but she gets bored and leaves. When he finally manages to buy something and leaves, he sees Yuzuha, but when she spots him, she gets scared and hides behind a tree, wondering why she was chosen. Unable to find her, he starts eating what he bought, wondering if she has eaten well. Mana appears with another manual, telling him how to gain her trust to have another star child with her. He goes to her house, and when she initially refuses to open, he says he'll only give her bread. She opens and tells him that's enough to dispel her doubts. Inside her house, she uses the bread to erase her drawings, and he notices she looks frightened. She apologizes and introduces herself as Yuzuha. Later, we see Mana as usual, exaggerating the situation, while in reality Yuzuha only served tea to Itsuki. She apologizes for the tea and calling him Ona-chain, but Itsuki tells her he has no problem with it and accepts her calling him that. We then learn that she likes to sleep in a coffin because she dreams more there and dislikes people. So Itsuki invites her to eat in the nearby park, which is less crowded. The next day, Itsuki is in the park with more bread, waiting for Yuzuha. Then Yuzuha arrives, carrying the coffin because she also uses it as a backpack, and she had brought all her painting materials. After Itsuki shows her that she can paint the beauty of nature, he suggests going for a walk. A girl appears and points something out to her mom, covering her eyes and running away. Yuzuha misunderstands and leaves crying, thinking it's because of her. But in reality, what the girl saw was Mana doing something inappropriate on a tree branch. Now we see Yuzuha at home, crying inside the coffin because she thinks it's his fault, and now they think Itsuki is weird. Back at the sanctuary, thinking about what to do for her, Eri arrives, and she explains that Yuzuha has a sleep illness, where the more you sleep, the more you die. That's why she doesn't like people and always carries a coffin, so he must help her. When he sees Mana making a coffin as an apology, but also to use it as a bed, and for the ritual, Itsuki gets an idea. He goes to Yuzuha's house and explains that he wants to see the world with her and will take that coffin with him so she can see she's not alone. They go out and have fun, and by evening, she realizes that there's always someone who finds you, so there's no need to stand out. She falls asleep in the Itsuki's lap, starting to dream. The next day, Yuzuha tells Itsuki that she was able to dream and wants to fulfill her duty as a priestess. They go to the designated place and have another star child. Later, Mana gives Itsuki a gift for Eri to help gain her trust. He follows his advice and goes to the sanctuary, where he gives the gift to Eri without seeing her first, but she still likes it a lot, making her feel embarrassed. And that's it, guys. This was the first part, so if you want the second part, let me know in the comments section. And don't forget to subscribe. Peace.